Good evening. If you are tired, you are not alone. Tired of optimizing one more checklist, one more protocol, one more app to monitor, track, warn, and calm, one more must in the name of peace. I have watched the shoulders of good people creep up toward their ears under the weight of vigilance, and I have heard the soft confession whispered more often than any prayer. I don't feel safe yet. Fear grips the world, and it wears many lab coats and hard hats and committee badges. It promises, add this, and then you can rest. But rest is placed on layaway, and the balance is never quite cleared. We have entered an age of safety hacking, clever, exhausting, incessant, where the next tip is the talisman and the next safeguard the savior. If only we sterilize a bit more, lock a bit tighter, save a bit larger, buffer every hour of the day so that nothing unexpected can trespass. Then peace. But you know, and I know, that the finish line keeps moving. The graph never reaches settled. The soul never exhales. Peace dangles like a carrot on the end of a policy. Now hear me gently. This is not a sermon against methods, nor an endorsement of recklessness. This is not for or against any industry, any protocol, any prudent measure. This is not taking sides. It is only asking us to look at where we place power, because there is only one power, and it is not contained in the visible fortresses we build around our lives. Be still and know that I am God. Not be busier, not be cleverer. Be still. Peace does not arrive by pursuit. It arrives when pursuit rests. I sat last week with a woman named Mara. Fiction will let me protect privacy while telling the truth. She is the kind you admire. Triple locks on the door, emergency bag in the trunk, spreadsheets for the month and the year, alarms for the stove, the dog, the markets, the storm. And still, at 2 a.m, the body trembles and the mind rehearses 1,000 contingencies. When she whispered, "What else can I add?" I heard a better whisper rise. What if peace arrives when you stop trying to secure it? My grace is sufficient for thee. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Let the outward things be what they are, useful, perhaps, but let them no longer be our gods. The race to secure peace by external means cannot be won. The ribbon is cut the moment you cease to run. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Tonight, let that be our beginning, the laying down of the chase, so that peace may finally find a place to sit. If we are to stop running, it must be because we have seen something that makes running unnecessary. Here is that seeing. There is only one power, not two, not a contest, not a negotiation between good forces and bad forces jockeying for our attention. One power. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. All that appears as form, body, or bank account, locks or headlines, praise or blame is effect. Cause lives invisibly. The kingdom of God is within you. Peace and safety are not engineered. They proceed as effects of reliance upon the one who is cause. Let us be simple with it. If the outer thing seems to confer peace and then in the next breath threaten to withdraw it, is that power or is that a weather vane? If the market goes up and we breathe and it goes down and we gasp, who is ruling whom? A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. We are not scolded here. We are awakened. All power is within. Nothing from without can enter to defile, to disturb, to determine, unless we sign for the package and bring it inside. Withdraw your signature. Withdraw your assent. Spiritual cause, not material cause. Inner reliance, not outer control. You say, but the world is real enough. I do not deny appearances. I deny their power. Fear grips the world. I do not deny the gripping sensation. I deny that fear is a power. It is a universal mesmerism, a long shadow cast by the absence of light, not a substance. When light appears, the shadow flees, not because you wrestled it, not because you added more lamps of human ingenuity, but because light is cause. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. A single gaze, one power. From then on, it isn't difficult. It is steady. Antithesis makes the frame clear. Sword of the spirit, not the surgeon's knife. Spiritual armor, not alarm systems. The government upon his shoulder, not upon your calendar. The peace of Christ, not the lull of circumstances. Use what is outward, yes, but as servant, never master. Do not demand of an effect the blessing that only cause bestows. Do not make a graven image of a checklist. I speak this not as a theory to be debated, but as a road long walked. If I hadn't witnessed this for years, healings of mind and pocketbook, reconciliations and provisions untraceable to clever plans, I could not sit here so quietly. I have seen the invisible undertake the visible and rearrange it without strain. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. That is not piety, it is physics of the spirit. Now, before we hurry to understand, let us pause to know. Be still with me. Do not try to believe. Simply turn. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Breathe and feel for that which cannot be seen, heard, tasted, touched, or smelled, yet announces itself as hush, as a gentle weight of assurance upon the heart. He hangeth the earth on nothing. He can bear you without props. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Not as the world gives conditional, revocable, but as grace gives free, sufficient. Now, from this inner reliance, peace and provision appear as effects, as surely as dawn follows night. You will find that the same lock on the same door is either an idol or a tool, depending on where you place power. Place it within, in the infinite invisible, and the idol becomes a tool, the tool, a quiet servant, and your heart rests not because you have secured the world, but because you have yielded to the one who already governs it. Look around at the cleverness of our age and listen to the hum of vigilance. More locks than doors, more passwords than friends, 2-factor, 3-factor, face, finger, phrase, cameras for the porch, sensors for the pantry, trackers for the wrists and the pets and the parcels, metrics for sleep, for steps, for glucose, for mood, notifications to remind us to breathe, and then reminders to silence the reminders so we can breathe, supplements lined like sentries along the kitchen shelf, insurance for health and house and job and travel, riders on the riders, backups of backups in clouds that float on other people's computers. Even our joy is timetabled and our rest is quantified, all of it promising. If we add this one more layer, then the heart can be quiet. Fear, fear, fear refined and automated, draped in helpful interfaces. I do not mock it. I have used locks and thank God for them. I have paid premiums and given thanks when storms passed me by. This is not a sermon against prudence. Let us be clear. Tools have their place, and they can be very good servants, but they are not power. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh, but in vain. We respect means. We do not deify them. We acknowledge appearances. We deny them dominion over consciousness. The moment a thing out there becomes the guarantor of peace in here, a graven image has been carved from an otherwise innocent instrument. Here is the bind of safety hacking. Every new safeguard multiplies the suggestion of new threats because reliance hasn't shifted. Add a lock, and the mind imagines the thief cleverer than yesterday. Encrypt the file, and a whisper says, there must be a breach we have not yet imagined. Take a supplement to calm the nerves, then a second to manage the first, and a third to balance the second. Attach a rider to a policy, and the next morning a headline invents a peril the rider does not name. Install a monitor that beeps to save your life, and then spend your life jumping at the beep, ever learning, never coming to the knowledge of the truth, because truth is not a quantity of protections. It is a quality of presence. Understand the magnetic law at work in mesmerism. Fear feeds fear. Fear is not your fear. It is a universal suggestion, an atmosphere with no substance of its own. Its only energy is the life we lend it by believing it a power. Multiply externals without relocating trust, and you multiply touch points for that suggestion to enter. You create more doors for a powerless phantom to knock upon. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. Not by panic, not by perpetual patch, but by inner turning. So let us clarify terms once and for all. We do not deny hurricanes, markets, microbes, malfunctions. We deny their power to govern consciousness, to originate cause, to dictate outcome to the one who abides in the one. All power is within ourselves, not ego, not stubbornness, within the eye that is God's very presence announced as your own awareness. Make your transition there, and you may keep your locks and your passwords without becoming their prisoner. They will be tools, not masters. Effects, not causes. Quiet servants who stand down when the Lord keeps the city. How, then, shall we walk in an age of clever anxieties? Smile at the machinery. Yes, smile at it. A camera is not a god. A graph is not a verdict. A policy is not providence. When the notification chimes, do not sprint to appease it. First turn within and hear, peace be still. Whisper to the restless system, thou hast no power. Feel for the hush that does not arrive through batteries or bandwidth. Perfect love casteth out fear. And from that love, which is not human fondness, but divine self-knowing, tend your instruments calmly. Use them without leaning on them. Adjust them without worshiping them. I have watched this quiet reversal work in kitchens and clinics and offices and on the nightstand where the phone used to govern sleep. It is not dramatic. It is steady. As reliance relocates, the beeps fade into the background, the shoulders lower, and what you could not accomplish with 10 new layers is given without strain. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? Let that be your operating system. Multiply safeguards if you must, but do not multiply fear. Tools help, but they do not heal. Healing is the sign of grace, recognized, cause restored to its throne, and effects falling into line like obedient servants before a quiet king. Having smiled at the machinery, let us now look at the operator, whispering in the background the voice that says, you are not safe unless fear grips the world. But hear this in a new way. Fear is universal, not personal. It is not your private failing, not a flaw in your character. It is a mesmerism, an atmosphere of suggestion, like static on a radio, and its only strength is the credence we grant it. God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. That spirit is yours now. The other, this trembling suggestion, is not yours and never was. When fear approaches, it poses as a messenger of truth. It brings headlines, symptoms, memories, probabilities. It knocks, and it can knock loudly, but it does not enter unless we open. Withdraw your assent. Withdraw your signature. Practice the quiet nullification that puts fear back into the nothingness from which it pretends to arise. Thou hast no power. Out of nothingness, appearing as something. Say it without heat, without defiance. Say it as you would identify a shadow at noon. There is no battle. There is only recognition. And in that recognition, the spell breaks. You ask, how do I do this? When the body tightens, when the mind races, begin simply, humanly. Soften the face. Breathe once. Inwardly smile. Yes, smile. It is not denial. It is a signal to your whole being that the throne has not changed occupants. Then turn, Father, into thy hands. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. From that inner poise, you may say, peace, be still. Not to force calm upon yourself, but to withdraw the false credential that fear flashes at your door. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Shadow, not substance. With me, not apart from me. Do not mistake compassion for compliance. We can care for conditions without bowing to them. The master touched the leper. He did not negotiate with contagion. He fed the hungry. He did not canonize lack. He looked at the storm and said, why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? And the wind understood him. To the ruler's house he said, fear not, believe only. And life answered, this is not hardness of heart. It is heart established in one power. You can take a child to the clinic with tenderness and yet deny fear the right to define the journey. You can read a bill and pay what is yours with integrity and yet refuse to worship deficit as a god. Compassion, yes. Compliance with fear, no. In practice, it is this ordinary. The phone rings with alarming news. Before you answer, soften the face. Breathe once. Inwardly smile. Thou hast no power. Turn within. Lord, what would you have me know here? Then answer the phone. Make the call. Drive to the place. Do what love requires. Call a neighbor. Consult a specialist. Lock a door if you must, but do it from the spirit, not from the siren. From then on, it isn't difficult. It is simply consistent. Each time fear appears, you will remember, this is not my fear. It is the world's mesmerism, and it has no authority in the kingdom within. You will discover that what used to seize you now brushes by you like wind against a steady tree. The headlines continue to write themselves, the instruments continue their beeping, appearances continue their parade, but they no longer draft you into their army. Be not afraid. It is I. When fear is recognized as non-power and impersonal, response becomes free, free to love, free to act wisely, free to let outward means be servants without granting them divinity. One power reigns. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things. And the smile that begins as a human cue becomes the sign of a deeper fact. The presence of the gentle Christ is sufficient to calm the storms of life. Grace now. Let us come to the center and call it by its right name. Grace is the unearned, operative activity of the one power, fulfilling itself in us, through us, and as us. Not a sentiment, not a doctrine, an operation. My grace is sufficient for thee. Sufficient means enough, and not barely. Enough for today, and enough for what looks like tomorrow. Enough in the valley as surely as on the hill. Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. One power at work, and it works as gift. We have lived too long on the wage system of the soul. Strive and be paid in a little peace. Scramble and receive a little provision, only to discover that the paymaster delays or deducts unexpectedly. Grind demands, calculates, bargains. Grace bestows. Grind keeps ledgers of deserving and anxiety. Grace erases them and writes, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. This is not license for indolence. It is freedom from the superstition that effort manufactures life. Give us this day our daily bread is not a plea to an unwilling God. It is recognition that bread is given, not earned in the sense we have worshipped. We no longer work for a living. The living comes by grace, and we work from the living that has come. Do not misunderstand. Grace is not passivity. Grace is divine motion. It is the inner go that sends you to the right door at the right hour, and the inner wait that saves you from costly haste. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength, quiet enough to hear, confident enough to obey. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. There is lying down, yes. There is leading, yes. Grace rests. Grace moves. Grace chooses the means without consulting panic. It may say, call the doctor now, and it may say, rest and be still. And it is the same grace in both, the same one power arranging effects around cause. From health to livelihood, the pattern holds. Sufficiency flows as presence, not as payment for striving. I have watched pain loosen when no argument could persuade it, and invoices find their counterpart when arithmetic had run out of digits. I have witnessed reconciliations blossom where negotiations had deadlocked for months. If I hadn't seen this again and again in homes and hospital rooms, in storefronts and boardrooms, I could not speak so quietly. But the infinite invisible shows itself, and when it does, the fig tree buds in its season. Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin, and yet the raiment appears, and yet the bread is broken and multiplies under hands that did not fear lack. How do we live by gift instead of grind? Turn first, turn always, turn before the plan, during the plan, after the plan. Father, what is thy grace accomplishing here, and how shall I consent to it? Then listen, without bargaining. Do not promise holiness for outcomes. Do not pledge hours for favors. Let your prayer be consent, not commerce. When peace in the heart clicks into place, like a key in its lock, move with it. Make the call from that hush. Send the resume from that hush. Take the medicine from that hush. Decline the offer from that hush. You will find sufficiency braided into the act itself, as if the step and the supply were twin children of the same parent. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things, in body and breath, in rent and receipts, in parenting and partnership, in loss and in the hour of song, not as a bonus for grinding well, but as the original fact of being. One power, giving itself without measure. Receive, and you will see the arithmetic of heaven replace the ledgers of fear. the yoke becomes easy, the burden light, not because the world retired its storms, but because the gentle Christ within you governs the sea and pays the bill quietly as gift. Maturity, in the spiritual sense, is nothing more or less than this conscious transition from dependence on that which is visible, audible, weighable, and countable, to a settled reliance on that which is invisible yet nearer than breath. We walk by faith, not by sight, not by blindness, by another kind of sight. This is not an invitation to fantasy. It is a return to cause. The kingdom of God is within you. All that shows itself out here. Appointments kept, doors opened, bills answered, bodies steadied as effect. Cause is the living presence, felt as quiet, as assurance, as right timing that arrives without fuss and proves more accurate than all our metrics. You ask, how do I know the invisible is not make-believe? By its fruit. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Substance, a felt weight of peace that does not depend on outcome. Evidence, the way the next right word comes on your tongue at the right second. The way a delay that once maddened you becomes a perfect protection. The way a name to call rises unbidden and resolves a tangle without argument. These are not fireworks. They are the ordinary signatures of grace, plain as bread, gentle as light at dawn. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. The method is simpler than our training suggests. Turn within first, act outwardly second, cause precedes effect. Before the email is sent, the voice called, the medicine taken, the plan laid turn. Lord, what would you have me know here? Wait for the click of recognition, the unforced yes or the equally unforced no. Then move. The same steps you might have taken in panic are now taken in peace, and because their origin has shifted, their outcome shifts with them. Be still and know that I am God. Be still is the order. Know is the operation. God is the cause. Effects follow. Set your expectation in truth. Early glimpses come modestly. A lightness where a knot has always lived. A thought that carries authority without strain. One conversation that once you would have postponed, now accomplished in 10 untroubled minutes. A night of sleep returning where alarms had been your lullaby. Do not demand spectacle. Let the dawn be dawn. The invisible proves itself by making you less dramatic, not more. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, not as adrenaline, not as victory music, but as the quiet that renders both triumph and trouble incapable of ruling you. From then on, it isn't difficult. Why? Because reliance has relocated. The same world continues, schedules, headlines, invoices, but it addresses a different center. The heart no longer consults a barometer on the wall. It abides in the presence that hung the earth on nothing. Underneath are the everlasting arms. Outward means resume their rightful station as servants. You will find yourself locking a door without checking it thrice, reading a report without consenting to its fear, seeing a symptom without furnishing it a throne. Spiritual armor, not alarm systems. Sword of the Spirit, not the surgeon's knife. Yet if the surgeon is called, he arrives as servant to the one, not as master of your fate. I speak this because I have watched it ripen. A man named Eli, fretful for years over contracts and clocks, took to this simple order. Turn first, act second. Within weeks, no miracle headlines, only a steadiness that colleagues began to trust. phone calls arriving at the right time, a deal that had stalled released by one soft sentence he had not rehearsed. A mother, worn by midnight dread, began to smile, yes, smile, when the monitor blinked, turning within before she touched a button. Soon the blinking no longer ruled the room, and her child's rest deepened as if learning from her breath. If I hadn't witnessed such quiet rearrangements again and again, I couldn't stand here so calmly. But I have, and I can, live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Let appearances be appearances. Refuse them dominion. The transition is the practice. From visible dependence to invisible reliance. Peace grows there, naturally, like seed in good soil. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Stay your mind there, and the effects will follow you home. Antithesis must become action, or it remains poetry on the lips. Spiritual armor, not alarm systems. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God. Sword of the Spirit, not the surgeon's knife. And I do not mean we despise surgeons, God forbid. We honor skill without enthroning it. We bless the craftsman, the caretaker, the analyst, the engineer, but we do not give them the keys to our peace. Reliance precedes remedy. Turn within first. Let the means come afterward as gentle servants who arrive when the king nods. This is not either-or fanaticism. We are far beyond partisanship for or against method. It is right order. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added. First the kingdom, cause restored to its throne, then the adding effects in their proper places. Use means wisely while withdrawing fear's crown. Let the prescription serve, not rule. Let the policy serve, not rule. Let the spreadsheet serve, not rule. Let the calendar serve, not rule. One power rules. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Let it be practical. A health scare, a sudden pain, a report with numbers that shout. Before the scramble, soften, breathe, inwardly smile. Withdraw assent from panic. Thou hast no power. Then, Father, into thy hands. Wait for the quiet that sets the order. If the next clear step is clinic or call, take it unhurried, unhaunted like Peter stepping onto water because the word come preceded the step. You will find the room different because you entered armed with the whole armor of God, loins girt with truth, feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, shield of faith lifted so that even human skill becomes an avenue of grace, not a rival to it. The surgeon, if called, is a servant in the king's court. He is not sovereign. A financial dip. The account falls. A client wavers. Figures glare. First answer from within. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Feel that fullness touch the center that feared emptiness. Then look at the books. Make the call you are given to make. Decline the frantic scheme that offers gain in exchange for integrity. Sow where you are led, not where anxiety points. I have seen a single quiet conversation, born of grace and not hustle, restore more than a month of clever hustling. Harmony that appears after realization is not fragile. It does not need daily injections of worry to stay alive. A relational tension, the word you dread to hear at the table, the text that tightens the chest. Turn first. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. A soft answer turneth away wrath, not a calculated softness, but the one that flows, because your heart is already at rest. From that center you may speak one true sentence instead of 10 defensive paragraphs, and watch as heat has no fuel, not as manipulation, but as light refusing to quarrel with shadow. Blessed are the peacemakers, and I don't mean peace fakers. I mean those who bring the reality of one power to a place formerly governed by two. Redefine success. Not anxious scrambling that yields a temporary patch while multiplying fear's hooks. Success is harmony emerging from realization, outer forms falling into place because inner place has been found. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Once the Lord builds once grace's cause, then the labor is no longer vain, it is joy, and it holds. Do not mishear me. This is not neglect. This is obedience to order. Seek first, act next. Abide, then move. Pray, then plow. Let your armor be spiritual. Let your instruments be temporal. Let your allegiance be singular. There is only one power. Choose reliance in the invisible, and the visible will take its rightful seat at your feet, not on your neck. From then on, it isn't difficult. It is simply faithful. And in that faithfulness, you will watch again and again as servants appear at the door just when the king has already set the table. Let us make it plain and usable. A simple liturgy of attention that meets you in doorways and desks and kitchens. 3 movements only. Turn, rest, respond. Turn to the Spirit, rest in grace, respond as led. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Not a complicated order, a holy rhythm, repeated often, lightly, silently, until it becomes the pulse of your day. First, turn. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Before the email, before the reply, before the scroll of headlines turn, soften the face. Breathe once. Inwardly smile. Withdraw your signature from fear. Thou hast no power. Remember, fear is universal mesmerism, not your private possession. Refuse to adopt it. Then speak within yourself without flourish. Father, here I am. Or speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. Or simply, peace. The turn is a pivot. It reorients, cause you are not collecting strength from the room. You are consenting to the strength that already indwells the room because it indwells you. Be careful for nothing, but in everything, let your requests be made known unto God. Then rest, not lassitude, not delay for delay's sake. The rest that lets grace announce the order. Be still and know that I am God. Wait for the inner. Click the unforced yes, the unforced no. It may take 3 breaths or the length of a hallway. Do not pry at it. It is a gift. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, not as adrenaline, not as argument. A hush that steadies the hands without numbing them, that clears the eyes without hardening them. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. The resting is his gift. The lying down is our consent. If the mind rushes back to chase, smile again. Thou hast no power. Return to the rest. From then on, it isn't difficult. It is simply faithful. And then respond. Only now, 1 step, not 10. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, a lamp for the next pace, not a floodlight for every corridor of tomorrow. Send the note you're given to send. Make the call you're given to make. Offer the sentence you're given to speak. Take the medicine you're given to take. Refuse the scheme you're given to refuse. Let means be servants arriving at the nod of the king. You will notice the tone shifts. The action wears peace like a garment. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, and standing still includes the step he now lights. Practice this silently through the day. Let a vibration in your pocket become a bell for the turn. Let door frames remind you to rest as you pass under them. Let washing your hands be an altar. Turn, rest, respond. Before you click send, hand it over. Before you unlock the door at night, hand it over. When a child's name lights the screen, hand it over. In traffic, hand it over. Pray without ceasing does not mean many words. It means many returns. Brief, frequent, faithful. Make withdrawing power from fear part of the liturgy. Notice it approach. Name it as it is. Not mine, not power, not a cause. Return it to nothingness with a gentle, thou hast no power. It is I. Be not afraid. Let presence speak first. Then, if action is required, let it be love's action, not dread's compulsion. You will find that what once made you hurry now makes you holy. The same tasks, a new cause. Record the signs following. Keep a small book or a note where you can reach it without ceremony. Not to boast, to remember. Write down the quiet evidences, the temper you felt soften before the meeting, the phrase that arrived in time to heal a misunderstanding, the sleep that came without your former bargains, the invoice answered from an unanticipated direction, the child's calm where there had been alarm, the pain that loosened when no argument could unbind it. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Let testimony accumulate until trust is no longer a theory. It is your reflex. This is receiving, not chasing. Turn, rest, respond, live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. In this simple liturgy, peace is not manufactured. It is received. Provision is not coerced. It appears as the lawful effect of cause restored to its throne. The externals take their places, not because you have muscled them into order, but because grace, quiet, sufficient, governing, has been permitted to do what grace does. I can speak this quietly only because I have watched it. Not once, not in theory, but again and again, where life is lived. If I hadn't witnessed this for years, in kitchens and clinics, in offices where numbers glare, in living rooms where silence has hardened, I could not sit here so calmly and say, there is only one power, and mean it beyond the pulpit. But I have, and so I can. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things, and it does not argue for its right to be. It simply demonstrates itself. I think of a nurse call her Ruth on a night shift when the ward breathed in short, shallow waves. Rumor had been running faster than the monitors. She told me later, I remembered to turn first. In the doorway, she softened her face, breathed once, smiled inwardly, Father, into thy hands, and then she moved. No heroics, no loud prayer. The atmosphere changed because the crown was lifted from fear. A child sleeping hot as coal steadied. A mother's eyes, wild, found a ledge. He sent his word and healed them. I have never seen contagion rule where presence was first allowed to govern. Touch becomes safe when the one who touched the leper is the cause of the touch. The knife, if used, serves. The medicine, if given, serves. But the ruling power always is grace. I have watched boardrooms transformed without ultimatums. Two partners, 8 months of ice between them, met to end a venture and divide the wreckage. One of them had begun to practice the turn, not as tactic, but as obedience. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. He arrived 5 minutes early, sat where he would have argued, and rested. When the other walked in, armored for war, the first spoke one soft, unpracticed sentence. I may have misjudged your intent. That was all. No bargains, no threats. The knot loosened. Within 40 minutes, they had not only dissolved the conflict, but discovered a way to continue with new terms neither had conceived. A soft answer turneth away wrath. And I don't mean a calculated softness. I mean the one that flows when fear has been disrobed and love is cause. Provision? I have seen panic feed lack, and I have seen grace feed bread. A baker, small shop, thin margins, stood 2 rents behind after a season when foot traffic faltered. She had spreadsheets and sleeplessness in equal measure. A friend placed in her hand this simple order: turn, rest, respond. One morning, instead of drafting a dozen pleading emails, she stood in her flour-dusted kitchen and said, "The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof." She kept silence until the hush arrived. Then she was given a single step. Call a cafe owner. She had always assumed uninterested. No pitch, just a truthful offering. By week's end, a standing order filled the gap she had tried to bridge for 6 weeks with anxiety. Before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. The numbers moved because the cause moved first. What is the pattern? When fear's crown is removed, the knot begins to untie itself by right ideas arriving in right sequence with right timing, and the outward actors, nurse, surgeon, partner, buyer, take their cues from a script grace has already written. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. I do not bring you headlines. I bring you the quiet arithmetic of heaven. Sleep where there was bargaining. A yes where there had been 12 maybes. A bill answered not by a sweepstake, but by the ordinary faithfulness of one new client and the forgiveness of one old fee. No trumpet, just a new tone in the room. The still small voice and the still small evidence following. If you are new to this, I will put it on an if basis, and I am content to be tested there. If you will practice, turn first, rest, then respond, you will see for yourself. Not because of my witness, but because grace is not proprietary. Prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven. Keep your small book. Write down the ordinary miracles so you do not forget them. You will find that sufficiency demonstrates itself where fear once issued decrees, and the evidence accumulates quietly until calm is no longer a guest. It is the house. I am not asking you to take sides with me against the world. This is not a work of partisanship. I am inviting you to consent to order. One power first, all else added. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Then watch as grace, without poster or parade, takes the chair fear once occupied and governs. From then on, it isn't difficult. It is simply faithful. And in that faithfulness, you will grow the same humble confidence. If I hadn't witnessed it, I could not say so. Because I have, I can. Now, I can hear the mind rising to object, and it is honest in its questions. What of the bills? What of the children? What of the headlines that trumpet danger day and night? Must we not secure more control, bigger budgets, stricter rules, louder alarm? Is more control the solution? The answer is no. Not bigger and more controls. Not more noise. Not more steel bars across the doors of the mind. There is only one power. Control, as fear defines it, multiplies itself like shadows in a hall of mirrors. Prudence is not control. Love is not control. Grace governs. Fear tyrannizes. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things. Take the children. Do we cease to care? God forbid. We care more truly. We buckle the seatbelt. We teach the truth. We set the boundary. We kiss the forehead and check the homework. Yes, yes, and yes. But we refuse to parent from fear. We parent from presence. Perfect love casteth out fear. Love, not worry, is the power that forms character and surrounds with safety. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. When the fever runs hot, when the door is late to open, when peer talk sounds like wolves turn first, inner yes, then act, you will find that the same steps a frightened parent takes become different in tone when taken from grace. A phone call without accusation, a boundary without rancor, a no that holds because it flows from peace. He shall give his angels charge over thee, and I don't mean that we grow careless. I mean that love leads, and children recognize the government of love. What of the bills? Must we not double the hustle, triple the hustle? Is anxiety the engine of provision? The answer is no. Do the next right task? Absolutely. Open the books. Send the invoice. Return the call. Trim what love will not miss. But first restore cause. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. We no longer work for a living. The living comes by grace, and we work from the living that has come. Make the call from hush, not from haste. You will see again and again that right supply follows right reliance, a payment you had stopped chasing, an introduction you could not have engineered, the resilience to wait 3 days rather than pay 3 years of penalty to panic. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. And the headlines, what then? Shall we hide? Shall we marinate in outrage in the name of vigilance? Is a louder alarm the path to peace? The answer is no. Be informed. Do not be inflamed. Watch and pray. Withdraw your assent from fear's glamour. Refuse to be hypnotized by the theater of crisis. Sit with the paper or the screen and silently place it in the one. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Then do your assigned good vote. Write, serve, give, speak truth without frenzy. Refuse rumor, its food. Be not afraid of sudden fear. When you carry non-fear into the room, you have done more for the Commonwealth than 1,000 agitated shares. Now, hear this clearly. This is not recklessness. This is not closing our eyes and calling it faith. It is refusal to enthrone fear while we do prudent, love-led action. Fasten the latch. Do not padlock the heart. Save for winter. Do not worship accumulation. Take counsel. Do not sell your peace to the counselor. Take therefore no thought for the morrow, and I don't mean negligence. I mean no anxious thought. Plan from presence. Move from peace. Wear the armor of God. Use the tools of men as servants who report to the one. Be still and know that I am God. And then from that knowing, go to your desk, your kitchen, your polling place, your child's bedside, and fulfill your duty without the whip of control. We fulfill our duties from reliance on grace, not from the tyranny of control. Prudence serves, fear does not. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. One power first. Then the means arrange themselves like instruments obedient to a true conductor. From then on, it isn't difficult. It is simply faithful. From here the line widens. Your peace does not end at your skin. Consciousness communicates. Another is blessed because you refuse to fear on their behalf. When ye come into an house, salute it. And if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. Peace is not a private hobby. It is participatory life. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. As you do, others find their breath because you have found yours. This is not mysticism for closets. This is the quiet arithmetic of the kingdom. One with God is a majority. A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. Practice this silently. Do not argue. Do not preach. Do not affix slogans to your neighbor's door in the name of truth. Let realization do the work. Truth needs no ushers. It travels by its own spirit, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Withdraw fear's crown first in your own heart. The room will feel it. Sit in the meeting as a non-anxious presence and watch as tones soften without an agenda item to explain it. Stand by the bed with a hush that says, thou hast no power to the panic. And notice that monitors may still blink, but they do not rule. The government shall be upon his shoulder, not yours, his, and yet in that government, your shoulders become places of rest for the weary. The sick room. You enter without the heavy armor of dread. You do not recite at the patient. You rest in the presence for the patient. He sent his word and healed them. The word is sent before the mouth moves. Fear is universal mesmerism, not your fear. Refuse to adopt it on their behalf. Feel the smile, not mockery, but recognition. It is I. Be not afraid. Touch becomes safe when the one power is acknowledged at the center. If medicine is given, it serves. If surgery is called, it serves. But fear does not serve. Grace governs. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things. The boardroom. Numbers glare and timelines hiss. Do you add your hiss to theirs? The answer is no. You listen for the click of inner order. And from there you ask one clear question instead of 10 defensive speeches. You discover that clarity spreads like warmth from a radiator. A soft answer turneth away wrath. And I don't mean diplomacy as manipulation. I mean the tone that follows when you have already turned within. You bless your colleagues not by agreeing with their panic, but by refusing to enthrone it. One spirit, one cause dissolves the need for sides. Decisions cease being victories and losses. They become obediences. The family table. Old script, sit down with the plates. You feel the familiar tug to manage, to tighten, to secure by lecture. Pause, turn, set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. You bring to that table not new rules first, but new reliance. A boundary spoken without rancor lasts. An apology offered without shame heals. A silence chosen over sarcasm ends a 3-year skirmish in 3 quiet breaths. Charity suffereth long and is kind. And I don't mean enabling. I mean the strength that comes from having withdrawn fear's crown, so that love, not anxiety, governs the tone. The polling place, pencils scratch, tempers simmer under coats. Is more outrage the offering that heals the city? The answer is no. Be informed. Do not be inflamed. Seek the peace of the city, for in the peace thereof shall ye have peace. You step into the booth having first stepped into the one. You mark your lines without hatred. You walk out not to triumph over neighbors, but to serve them. Refuse rumor its food. Give truth its modest voice. Your non-fear is a public service. Ye are the light of the world. A light does not conduct arguments with the dark. It simply shines. And the dark has no argument to offer. Do not misunderstand. This is not passivity. This is power rightly located. There is only one power. When you hold to that, the currents around you find bank and bed. Watch how an office eases because one person decided not to be governed by weather reports of emotion. Notice how a neighborhood meeting, one vote from fracture, remembers its common work because one heart arrived already at rest. Your silence is not absence. It is presence without noise. It is prayer without performance. It is love without theater. Let us make it explicit. Through the day, when you face another's fear, say within yourself, Father, I withhold my fear on their behalf. Thy grace is sufficient here. Then obey the step given. Speak or keep silence. Hold or release. Act or wait without the tyranny of control. You will see evidences that scale from private to public. A rumor dies for lack of oxygen. A mistake is corrected without the hunt for a culprit. A child eats because shame was removed from the table. A vote is cast without cursing. The wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God, but grace worketh through us to its peaceful conclusion. From me to we, the motion is natural. Private reliance becomes public good. Your silent non-fear lightens the world's burden. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. And I don't mean carry them as worry. I mean lift them by removing fear's crown so that grace may govern. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. One with God is a majority. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. Not to win sides, but to reveal the one power that dissolves the need for sides. From then on, it isn't difficult. It is simply faithful. And that faithfulness, multiplied quietly across rooms and roads and rows of booths, becomes peace with hands and feet. And now let us lay it down. The chase ends here. There is only one power. Fear is not a power. It is a universal mesmerism asking you for your signature, and you are free to refuse. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things. We have shifted reliance from the visible to the invisible, from alarms to armor, from hustle to holy order. Let this be consecration, not merely conclusion. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Consecrate your day in the simple way you have learned. Before each task, turn, rest, respond. Let grace set the pace. Before the door opens, turn. Before the message is answered, rest. Before the step is taken, respond from the quiet yes that presence provides. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Let the calendar be servant, not sovereign. Let the headline be information, not government. Let the need be a bell that rings you back to the one. Smile at conditions. They are effects searching for their cause, and the cause is already here. Say within yourself gently, thou hast no power, and then farther into thy hands. Hear again the master on the sea. It is I, be not afraid. And the other word that calms weather and men alike, peace. Be still. You will discover that storms do not need your panic. They need your presence, his presence in you as recognition. My grace is sufficient for thee. From then on, it isn't difficult. It is simply faithful. I invite you, test and see. Give yourself a season of quiet practice. Keep your small record of signs following, not for boasting, but for remembering. Note how sleep returns without bargaining, how provision arrives without groveling, how a single soft answer opens what force had shut. Prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven. This is not argument with the world. It is agreement with the one. And now, a blessing. May the gentle presence that walked upon the waters walk within your day. May the still small voice be loud enough for your next step and soft enough to make worry ashamed. May your house receive peace, and may your peace become bread for others. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and give thee peace. Stop chasing safety. Receive grace. One with God is a majority. There is only one power. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Grace is enough now.